Hi, my relatives. On today's episode of the Our Storytellers podcast, we're joined by my two good friends, Emily White and Madeleine Warkentin. Emily is of mixed descent. She is part Inuk from Labrador on the East Coast. Grew up out here in Agassiz. Madeleine is from Chilliwack. Her ancestors are among the first settlers of Chilliwack. Emily and Madeleine were part of a research project called Diversity Disconnect. They were actually the people who were out in the community listening to these stories from employees, employers, job seekers, and community service providers as well too. The research project, Diversity Disconnect is a research project, investigates recruitment of underrepresented groups in rural communities, specifically Indigenous peoples and people with disabling conditions. I feel like I learned so much during this podcast, and we had such a good time recording it. Like, we just had such a fun time. So I learned a lot. The problem of recruitment in rural communities is quite a big problem to solve. But if you know me, you know that any problem can be solved, and it starts with good people like Emily and Madeleine going out to community and listening to the stories, and it starts with us talking about it. So we're getting the conversation going today, and I'll link you in the description of wherever you're getting this. I'm going to link the website that provides a brief summary of the research project itself, but I think you should probably just hear it from the source too. So without further ado, please welcome my two good friends, Emily and Madeleine.
Hello, my relatives. How are you? Here at Our Storytellers, we care about your spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical well-being, which is why we want to inform you that this podcast discusses topics that may cause trauma to listeners and viewers. These subjects include mentions of Indian residential schools, assimilation, ongoing harm, colonial impacts, and much more. Our Storytellers recognizes the need to minimize risks associated with traumatic subject matter. The Hope for Wellness helpline offers immediate help to all Indigenous people across Canada. It is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to offer immediate support and crisis intervention. Services are available in English and French, and in Nehiyaw, Anishinaabe and Inuktitut upon request. If you or someone you know are experiencing any harm, no matter how big or small it's perceived to be, you can call the toll-free helpline at 1-855-242-3310 or connect to the online chat at www.hopeforwellness.ca. Kinanaskuman, I'm grateful for you. Your ancestors are always with you. All my relations, Riel.
Shut that door.
Shut that door. I
No
can't.
gyms allowed.
It's from Flushed Away. Shut that door. Freeze them. Ice them. Ice them both.
I haven't heard Flushed Away in so long.
Right.
I love that movie.
That was like Pixar's Ratatouille attempt.
I'm the much older sibling. Like I'm 10 years older than my brother and 6.5 years older than my sister. So I still watch kid movies.
I'm just a little baby guy.
Yeah, you're the baby.
Baby.
Yeah, I've got a brother who's like 45.
Oh.
Her
he's
brother's
like,
my parents' age.
He's like an ancient artifact.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
My sister is 14 years older than me. So what's that? 30, 40?
I don't know how old you are.
I don't know how old I am either. 25.
Hey, 25. We're all 25.
I'm 26. Am I not? No, I'm
You're
25.
not,
Sorry.
dude.
I am 25.
That's like a next year problem.
Yeah, exactly.
I forgot.
When you start
Anyway.
coughing out dust. Okay.
Okay, so how this starts is have you all ever received tobacco blanket protocol, anything like that before?
No.
Okay, so I'm not the person to actually say anything about it, but protocol is essentially a way that we would introduce our personal families or anything like that, or create connections. Like in my language, it's called Wakotuan. So the tobacco it's a medicine that restores balance. So we'll give that to you. And then the blanket is a present from the human to human kind of thing. So I'm going to pass one over to each of you. And then when you grab it, just introduce yourself in your own way. And I'm going to introduce myself quickly here too. But my name is Riel. I'm Métis from Nehio and Soto background. My family's from Red River, Manitoba. And this is what Jim and I do on the side. Clearly, you host Our Storytellers. And I'm so excited to have both you here. Obviously, we've been having a great time so far. So I'm going to pass these over. And whoever wants to go first, go for it. But one sec. Boom.
But then we have stuff for you as well.
No.
No,
But we do though.
we do.
How
And
much
it's stuck
stuff?
over there.
A shitty empty card that I
Right.
forgot to you first.
That's all
I'll
good.
wait.
We love a good shitty empty card.
But we picked
The thought was there.
We picked the card with intention.
Is it? Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's not shitty. That's not
grab
empty.
it.
Well, it's
No, we can't do it. Yeah, we'll have to give it to me at the end of it, I
Alright.
think. It'll be like the thing. And you don't have to hold it the whole time. You can put it beside you or whatever.
very
Either two.
It's very nice.
All right.
Okay, please you first. I went first like all the other time.
All right. I'm Emily White. I am from Agassiz, but my family is from all over the place. So my dad's family's from Scotland, and then my mom's family comes from Labrador, so Happy Valley Goose Bay. They are Inuit, so that is very fun and cool. But I was not like raised Indigenous. It's just how she blows. I'm very happy to be here. It's very exciting.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
My name is Madeleine Warkentin. My family is from Chilliwack generations. Like my 4 times great grandfather was the first mayor, so very colonizy. But I
First mayor of?
of Chilliwack, yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
That's pretty ballin'.
Samuel Colley.
Wow.
Yeah,
Get her autograph.
Yeah. Autograph time.
Chilliwack pedigree.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am grateful to be invited here today. I'm very excited. I think we're gonna get into some awesome stuff. Did I miss anything?
I don't think so.
Yeah, no, it's going to be fun. I mean, just to like, for the listeners' context, I guess, like all 3 of us met at a, yeah. Put them wherever. All 3 of us met at a career fair
Yeah.
when y'all were starting your project for the first time. Tell us a little bit about the project that you were just or wrapping up working on right now, I guess.
It's called Diversity Disconnect, and it's essentially a research project looking at fundamentally improving employment outcomes for Indigenous folks, as well as people with disabling conditions. So we've included things like mental health concerns and neurodivergence in that, because those are all things that greatly affect employment. And so we've just we set out to kind of look at what was happening in rural communities in particular. Rein, our company, really specializes in rural communities. And it turned into quite the advocacy opportunity, I think. And it really like lit a fire under us to make some change. So,
How so?
well, you speak to
No, go ahead. You're on a roll. You're good.
I think just I had in my life gone along trying to secure employment has been challenging, and I knew that there were systemic things at play, but just meeting like the fantastic people that we have and hearing their stories has really just and the fact that they've trusted us with their stories and found some sort of relatability with us has been really special. It's like we now carry these people and their stories. And so it's kind of like our responsibility to like spread the news and to kind of like let people know what's going on and what people are dealing with. 'Cause you speak to people and they don't really understand a lot of the time that there's a problem or what exactly is happening. And so just like us going out and meeting people and really doing the work has just given us an opportunity. We're in like a position of power that I don't think we ordinarily would have been able to be in. So yeah.
Yeah, and like we always joke, we're just little guys, like we're just out there, and it's like, I don't know, it feels very important, I guess. Like Madeleine was saying, or Lenny, I don't know.
Lenny's great in casual conversation.
Cool.
Lenny.
I didn't know if you wanted to be like buttoned up.
No, you're good.
Okay.
LinkedIn official.
Yeah, right. We keep getting told to make LinkedIn, and I'm like,
Please don't make me.
I'm good, thanks. I can't. But yeah, like we carry the stories that people share with us, like seriously every single day. Like there's not a day that goes by where I'm not thinking about like either this person or the next person or like this thing that they told us or something we learned along the way just from people. And it's just like, I don't know, it's felt very almost surreal. Like we feel very grateful that people felt so comfortable with us to like share it. And I think it is just because we're little guys. We're not like coming in like macho, like, so tell me, what's your story? You know, it's like
How do we solve this problem right here?
No,
right
exactly.
now?
It's like, all right, we get it. Like we're cracking around, like cracking jokes and goofing around and whatever. And then people just kind of like spill, or they're like, we only have 10 minutes. And then next thing you know, they're chatting with us for like an hour.
Yeah.
About like their deepest, darkest things. And I'm like, oh, okay.
It's like, how long is this going to take? I only have 15 minutes. And then an hour later, we're chatting and they're like, I don't want to go back to work. This is good.
Yeah, and they're like, can we give you a hug and all this? I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, of course.
So how did you find the opportunity to start researching this? Like, how did you get into it?
I saw it on Indeed because I was very unemployed.
Really? What were you doing before?
I was a kinesiologist. I just felt like I'd kind of reached my limit in a sense of like, I can't care for people properly if I'm not taking care of myself. And so like, if I'm coming to work and showing up and like kind of just not being there for even myself, like how am I supposed to be like, you know, like giving people the care that they actually need and feeling okay with that? And so I was like, I gotta take a step back for a second. And then I was like, maybe that wasn't a good choice right now because I'm very unemployed, but here we are. So
Employed for the time being.
Employed.
precariously employed.
Yeah.
Is it okay if I pull this down just a little
Yeah,
bit? Because
totally.
I feel like I can't see you.
Yeah.
Like just
Do whatever you gotta
I
do.
am small.
his face is the mic now.
I truly.
Jim will tell us if it doesn't sound good or whatever, but it'll be fine. Yeah.
For me, I had a bit of privilege in this scenario. I knew of our employer previously, like they're a family friend, and I had been deeply unemployed for quite some time. It was a situation, it was quite terrible. Like at the start of the pandemic, I had been in a position where I was like really respected, and they were like, we couldn't do it without you and things like that. And then pandemic happened, and they did the kind of crunchy to alt-right pipeline, and we're anti-vax and I'm immune compromised, and so it was very much like, if you're not gonna mask up, I can't actually be here, and they were fine to let that go. So that was like a really hard period of time where I had felt like I thought that I was valued, and so yeah, I had a little bit of a Mentee B era, and then
Mentee B means mental
Mental
breakdown.
breakdown. I'm with
Sorry.
you.
Yeah, here's your vocabulary lesson.
And was just like struggling with the systemic poverty thing. You know, like I can't get anywhere from where I live. I'm in Chilliwack, but I'm in kind of a rural side of Chilliwack, so it's $23 one way to get anywhere by cab. So I was just like struggling with, people want you to have experience, but how do I get this experience like at the height of the pandemic? So anyway, everybody had known that I was unemployed and struggling, and they were like, we gotta find something. And so our employer had come up to me in public at an event and was like, I'm creating a thing. I've written a grant, and when it's time, you should apply. So I did, and I struggled a little bit with feeling like I got called a Nepo baby at one point in getting this job. And I had to really be like convinced, like, you deserve to be here. You're here because you're like, I interviewed with a stranger, and you're here because you deserve to be here. And I struggle with that. But I think I finally believe it. Anyhow.
Right at the end.
Good. Yeah. Full circle.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but it was just, I knew the people and then got in that way.
Cool.
Long-winded anyway.
So when do you two meet each other and the magic starts happening?
We met each other in person the first time, I believe, at the work Christmas party a year ago.
Yeah.
So that was interesting, just being at the table.
Because we were just kind of like on Teams and like just chatting,
yeah,
or
it's
like
a remote position primarily. So
yeah, we'd have like our little check-ins. So like we'd be on video, and I'm just like, oh, okay, I'm just in my room right now. I'm in my pajamas. You know how it is. And then
yeah. So
like set the scene for me. So like work Christmas party, like
the theme was sparkles.
the theme was sparkles.
We were all wearing our glitter.
I like almost flashed everybody by accident. That was not good. It's like, hello, all you old people that I've never met before.
Sorry.
It's all good.
Okay, it's gonna be a surprise.
But anywho, yeah. And then I had like little, because I always carry just random little trinkets with me and stuff. I had these like little tiny versions of games in my bag, and so we were just sitting there playing like Tiny Connect 4 and like tiny.
She was like, "I've got tiny games. Do you want to play?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, I want to play!"
Right? Because we were just like, we're the little guys.
We are
you
by
know?
far probably the youngest, like in the whole company. So
like I felt like I needed like a high chair and like the kid menu and like
So and we were just our little guys, but it was great. Like right away, I was like, "She carries tiny games. This is gonna be good."
So then, okay, so everything's meeting up. You're all aligned. Research objectives are set.
Yeah.
You're like, we're definitely going to be interviewing employers, candidates, and help me out here. Who's the last person?
Service providers.
Service providers.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
On this, essentially this recruitment issue. And for context for everybody, like I work in Indigenous recruitment in healthcare right now. And I was one of the respondees of this survey. But do you start in by first of designing the survey together? Is that how that works out?
Yeah. So there was a lot of stuff that happened like before we even were like there.
Yeah.
It was like a lot of like setting kind of the groundwork for it of like, okay, so like this is what we're doing, whatever. Like we originally thought we were doing focus groups as well.
Yeah.
It's a challenge. We tried to do a couple, and like one of them, 3 people came, another one, 0 people came. So we were like,
the whole thing was like, because Emily has a little bit of experience with research and I don't have formal experience. So it was going to be like, okay, Emily's going to kind of take the reins on survey stuff.
right.
And my job is going to be focus group. It was like the year of Barbie. So like my job is focus group.
Yeah, like Ken's job is beach. Her job is focus group.
So I was like ready for focus grouping. I was like, I can do this. I wrote out my scripts and everything. And we did 3 people were there, and it was like the heads of our research team were there, and it was a little bit intimidating because
we were both ill.
We were both ill. And they know what they're doing in big ways. So it was our first time like doing it, and it was good, and we got good stuff, but it was not exactly how we had hoped it would have gone. And then our next attempt was in Ashcroft, and nobody showed up. We had 3 people signed up to be there, and they just decided to not be there. So we are in the business of pivoting, is what we say, because
like we're like from Friends, the pivot.
Yeah,
pivot. Yeah.
yeah, okay.
That's us.
Because I'd written all of my scripts. We were there, and nobody's there, and so we were like asked to therefore go out into the community, and we're switching to interviews. It was like, we're gonna ask people for interviews now. So we were just going into these little stores and like trying to find employers and people and like, please talk to us.
Please.
So everybody was on the table.
Yeah.
Everybody crossed the board.
Yeah. It was
So you were like kind of in sales mode almost.
Yeah.
It was door-to-door sales for sure. We were selling ourselves and what we believe in this. This is important.
Yeah, like if we had little suits on, we would have been Mormons, basically. Like strutting around like, hello, this is my script. Please listen.
We did. And we had to like kind of workshop halfway through. Like people are not quite getting it. And so we were like, okay, we have to tell them it's about a 10-minute survey, 10-minute online survey, really easy. Like you just gotta like make it as easy as possible for them. And then
none of the questions are mandatory.
Yeah,
just
like you can skip anything you want. And so it was really, we had to kind of workshop it and change it every time. And then we kind of got into a groove where it was resonating. So.
Yeah, by the end of it, we're just like, hey, you.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, not quite like that, but like,
Hey.
Not in a creepy way.
Yeah.
Sir.
But there was one point, I remember it vividly. We were in Ashcroft and it was like the day that we had to pivot, and we were suddenly with our clipboards, like interview people on the street. And we were in the Safety Mart because there's one grocery store, and we were in Safety Mart and we were waiting for somebody to talk to. And at the time I was unmedicated, and I was like, how am I doing this right now? Unmedicated. This is crazy. Like, I am so anxious all of the time, but I'm here like waiting to talk to a stranger, and I'm gonna do it. So, but we were just in the checkout line, and I was like, what's happening?
So literally day of, focus group doesn't go according to plan.
No, the morning up, we'd gone out.
Safety Mart.
Yeah.
We left at like 9 a.m. we had rented a space to do our focus group. I think we waited around until like noon, and we were like, okay, nobody's going to show up. So we had one of our people stay in the building in case somebody showed up. And that we were just like sent out with our clipboards, and we were like, just
they're like, good luck.
Talk to whoever will talk to you.
That's amazing though.
It was
Their resiliency is honestly sweet.
That was seriously like, I think either pivot or resiliency, depending on if you want to be silly about it or not, is like the theme of what we went through.
Yeah. Because I struggle, and there was one person in our team, like not our team, but our partner team, that was like, why is Madeleine struggling so much with this right now? Like, I guess it was obvious that I was like deer in headlights. Like, now we're doing this. And it's like, I'm autistic. I'm
It's like, she's got the
anxious.
tism. I don't know if you've heard of
Like,
that.
I struggle with like last minute changes. This is hard mode.
Because I'm just like, come on, buddy, let's go.
Let's go. Guys, this is so scary, but
But you pivoted, you got the stories too.
Yeah.
did.
At the end of the time. So eventually, you're asking employers, service providers, candidates. Now you're interviewing everybody you possibly can.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what are these interviews looking like? Like, you're booking them like me, and then like we come in. So you would have one-on-one interviews with employers,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
candidates, then service providers.
Yeah. Some of them were very on the fly. Like, it was like, we just caught them wherever they were, and it was like, okay, let's sit down. I've got time right now. Other ones, it was like, okay, like we can do this at this time or whatever, like more like yours.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of them were kind of just like, we're here, surprise.
Right.
And so, like, I don't blame them for being like, what is this? Who are you people? Because we're just little guys, and we're
Just
like,
little guys researching.
Yeah.
we've
exactly.
been working on this thing. I know you don't super understand what it's going to look like right now. Neither do we. But we just need some information.
Yeah, we'll figure it out as we go.
And like, if you work with us, we'll work with you. So we had like a couple of people that were like, yeah, it was great, like you. And then it was kind of like we had a snowball approach. So we would get one person who was really fabulous, and then they would be like, here are people that I know of. And so we were a little bit doing detective work. Like,
Yeah, we felt like little detectives, but it's such like a rural thing. Because like, I live in Agassiz, which is very like teeny tiny. We've got one drive-through,
Yeah.
2 streetlights. Had one when I was growing up.
I love Agassiz.
We
It's
really
grown a
moved
lot.
up. Hey, I can give you the tour if you ever need it. We got one street basically. That's it. But yeah, it's
My
very
favorite
much.
cow farm is there. That's not even a joke.
Which one?
It's right across from the prison.
yeah.
Mhm.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
I forget the farmer's name, but he was really nice.
nice. Yeah, there's some good farmers out there.
Yeah.
Good cows.
Good cows.
Great cows.
Such
Love
cute.
cows.
It's a dairy farm.
Yeah, we got a lot of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
Sorry. Keep
No,
going.
that's okay. But yeah, it's very much that rural, like, all right, I'll let you in on a secret here. Go talk to this person, you know? And I said this in our podcast, but like growing up, my parents would be like, they had this saying of like, if you fart in the post office, by the time you get to the bank, you pooped your pants because the gossip travels so fast, right? And like just gets out of control. So that's rural life. Rural. I can't say rural.
If you're in Agassiz, it's just life.
Yeah.
Exactly. And let's just say I'm trying to get out of there, but that's a side topic anyways.
Yeah. So, and it's maybe surprising, but each community had its own vibe very much so. Like, yeah, it's just like one of our communities was very small, but their service providers were so interconnected and they knew exactly what was going on within like their clients and the workplaces. So they were really like in it and really tried their best to make sure nobody was slipping through the cracks. So that was fantastic. But then you would have some of the larger communities where service providers didn't know what the other was offering and things like that. So there were a lot of gaps and people just not sure where to go.
Let's go person by person, get some stories from each type of person. So just what is, when you were surveying or interviewing service providers, these people are providing services directly to...
Yes. So it would be like the employers or employees or job seekers. They also sometimes work with employers.
Yeah.
So like think of it as like people like Work BC, or things like that, or like SaySet or what have you. Where was I even going with that?
There were some communities that they had customized, what are they called? Customized employment specialists.
Yeah.
And what was often happening is that they would share, like small communities would share these specialists. So they would be covering like 5 communities. One person would have 5 communities.
Like for example, one employment specialist would have 5 communities that they're covering.
Yeah, so like we spoke to one...
Helping people get jobs.
Yeah, like so we spoke with one who was based in Merritt, but she also covered Ashcroft, Lillooet,
oh crap.
Somewhere else.
Lots of them.
Yeah, including Merritt. And so like she was overloaded. And like her story was really interesting too. Because like she cared so much. Like she really was somebody that like sticks with us like a lot. Because like all she wants to do is like help her clients and like just get them in the door and like get them a good path going.
The compassion that she has, and like her job can be really challenging. Like she deals with people who are really struggling and at low points, but she just had so much understanding for like the way that people might be behaving is not the most kind or appropriate, but they're going through really hard things. And so if we can show them a little bit of compassion, like we can kind of work together. And
yeah, and she just said it's such a struggle because like the amount of paperwork and like bureaucracy around everything is
my gosh, yeah.
Right? Like she said she went on vacation and now she's like, I need a vacation from going on vacation because her paperwork was just piled up. And it's like she like wishes she could just focus on the people and not have to be like, all right, now I got to sit down and like write a novel basically of things that are, I don't know.
And I think a lot of the time what can happen like in service positions or people whose job it is to look after other people, the people who really care are at such a risk for burnout. And it's like the people that are successful in their jobs are the people that are able to like remove themselves a little. Like they have to kind of keep an arm's length, which if that's how you have to survive, that's fine. But it's just really hard like to watch the people that their hearts aren't in it anymore because they can't cope with the way that things are.
Well, like it's so reminiscent for me of why I left kinesiology too, right? Because it's like you want to have that connection with people, but like if you're not able to take care of yourself, like you just can't. Like it's just not there. It's not going to work.
Yeah, well, like working in, so it's lucky that I have experience with employment specialists. Like I totally understand what this person was going through. She probably has 80 different people.
Yep.
Like 80 different cases or whatever they call it on one end, right? And she's trying to give customized service to whoever needs it at that time. Also, you know, you have, was she an Indigenous like employment specialist, or was
she's a person of color. She's not Indigenous,
Okay,
but she's
gotcha.
also a person
helping everybody
with a
though.
disability.
Yeah, like
so-
yeah, essentially whoever wants help is like in, but yeah, she was more focused on like disabling conditions and
Gotcha.
that sort of thing.
Okay.
But again, it's like the whoever's there is there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So she has 80. She probably has 80 people. You know, each at different stages in their career. Like, okay, it's like first job time, or you know, you're looking to get back to work or whatever that is. 80 caseload, can't provide good service, feels terrible about it. I totally understand that. I've watched it happen. Like, the study was from Chilliwack to, where's the end of it?
Chilliwack
geography wise
wasn't part of it. So we did 5 rural communities: Hope, Agassiz, Ashcroft, Merritt, Princeton.
Right.
It's kind of just a little loop.
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay. So in those rural communities, oh man, like probably terribly hard job to do.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like my job, right? Like I recruit Indigenous people into healthcare. You know, when somebody comes up to you one day and goes like, hey, you've changed my life. Like, thank you so much for getting this job. You're like, oh, that's what we do it for.
Yeah.
But then you also have 79 other people that you're not helping to the best of your ability.
Right.
So then you're like in this weird middle zone.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to find like the silver linings, but then it's like where's the tipping point of like when it's gone too far of like, I'm not helping enough people, you know?
Right.
I don't know. It's interesting.
What was this person's like going back to, you know, the disability recruitment barrier essentially? Like what was their perspective on that, if you remember?
Well, so that's like our constant thing. The main quote that like came out of that really highlights kind of her whole interview is that she was saying like people aren't trying to be greedy and like not even financially, not whatever with what they need. They're just trying to survive gracefully. And that was like her thing. And we were like, yeah, like that goes for anybody in these underrepresented groups, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, she was just really fantastic. And she had it like, there's a lot of, because we've been trying to like not, I gotta gather my thoughts here. We really want this to get in front of government because there are changes that need to be made. And there have been efforts that the government has made to work on this issue, but there are things like wage subsidies. And a lot of the times what's happening is employers aren't bothering with a wage subsidy because of the paperwork that's involved. And like service providers are struggling with that paperwork too. So often people are like, they've been given this opportunity to hire somebody who needs a job, but they can't with the paperwork because things are so in rural communities, like it's all really resource based and you're on limited time and you've got limited resources. So it's just like for a lot of the employers, they're small businesses. They're like running really small outfits. And so to do that level of paperwork, to have one employee that might need extra help, like from their perspective, they're really struggling with that. But like, where was I going with that?
I think it's very interesting though that like that it does have to be easy. Like when I think about taking an employer's perspective in that scenario, I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, am I doing this right? Like, am I sending this to the right person? Am I forgetting something about this? Like what happens if subsidy, blah, 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 right? Like there's a lot of different things to think about. Whereas like maybe taking the approach of like taking it as making the process as easy as possible might be beneficial to everybody involved. Every underrepresented group.
Yeah.
And yeah, so there's that, but there's also the flip side of like the people who've never considered particularly hiring somebody with diverse abilities or disabling conditions. They have an idea that it's going to be massive changes. Like they're going to require infrastructure changes and like the list of things that they think are going to have to change is like overwhelming and massive. And so they just like, well, I'm just going to not touch that because it's too much. But when we're asking people that actually have the access needs and things, they are so creative. Like if it's just like, I just need to be able to sit while I do my job, or I need a little bit of flexibility, like for medical appointments. I need to be able to get to my medical appointments. Like they're really not asking employers to renovate or like.
Yeah. That's the misconception.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like the things that people with disabilities are willing to deal with are like pretty huge if it means that they have sustainable employment. So, yeah, just like the perception of what they think it's going to look like versus what it actually looks like is quite different.
Sounds like a communication problem.
Yeah.
Communication / marketing kind of thing.
Yep.
Interesting. So then that's one perspective, like service provider perspective. Like what about from a candidate's perspective? Like what kind of stories are you hearing? Whether it's a candidate with, diverse abilities or an Indigenous candidate.
There's a huge, like our number one success factor is opportunities. And there were people, just everybody speaking to, I just need to be given a chance. Like I need to just get my foot in the door. I need somebody to believe in me and just give me the chance to show them what I can do. And like prove myself on the job. Like I struggle. It's like people struggling to sell themselves with like words or experience. But they really just want like, if you just let me have a chance, I'm going to like do the absolute best that I can. And like, I think you'll be surprised at what I can accomplish. So there was a lot of like, just give me a chance. And that's really hard. Like to hear people who've just been struggling for so long to get any sort of opportunities. It's just like, can you just give me a chance?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think another thing too that was big was like awareness. And that one was something that really was highlighted in the Indigenous lens of things. Because it's like, if you don't understand what it's like on reserve, or even like just as an Indigenous person off reserve, like you don't know, right? Like it's hard to grasp the things going on of like some of them, like you can't even get off reserve because you can't get your license. You don't have like, there's not really public transit. Like Seabird Island just got public transit like a couple years ago. And it's like, why didn't that happen before? So it's like they can't even get to a job. Like we had one kid we were talking to.
And Seabird Island's very modern.
No, exactly, right? Like they have.
And progressive and invest a lot in their people.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Like that was like top of the line. Like that's
top service.
Yeah, exactly, right?
The best they can
And
do.
so like we even had a kid from Seabird Island tell us that like he was riding his bike to Chilliwack to get to work, which is like a treacherous long bike ride. And he's like pretty young and like has a disabling condition as well. And like this poor kid, like he just wants to get a job so bad. And like, I don't know. So I think it's like that awareness piece of like understanding that like they really are just trying their best. Like some people, like they were coming into the employment office when we were hanging out in there on Seabird and like they can't even, like they're illiterate, right? Like they can't write their names. They can't do that. And it's like, they still want a chance like everybody else. And so like, we just need to like find a common ground where we can offer that. And like, I don't know, I guess find positions where they feel like fulfilled and like can contribute to their culture. Cause that was such a big thing too of like, well, why is our band office employed by people from off reserve? Like they're making choices for us and then they don't have to live with these decisions because they get to go home at night.
Yeah.
And like they want to be a part of their band. They want to like contribute to their culture, contribute to their community and like all of this stuff.
They want to contribute. It sounds like there's a human need here to contribute.
That's the thing, right? And so it's like there's just things not happening. And like even one girl was like, oh, like my one employer was awesome. Like I got to wear a ribbon skirt to work and not feel like weird about it. And it's like, it's the little thing, like it's not offensive to wear a ribbon skirt. Like just let somebody do it. Or like, you know, if somebody in the community passes away, like let them take the time to honor that. Or like, I don't know, there's just so much stuff. And it's that awareness piece of like, you need to know what's happening. Like, I don't know. It fires me up for sure. It's just
I'll get fired up.
Yeah, nice. Well,
There's a lot there about hearing the other person. And we spoke with one. She was an employer. She owned a business for 20 years, and she's just excellent. She's a member of council now. She's a person with a disability. But it was a progressive.
Trying to do it without being like noisy. Sorry.
You got it. No,
Okay,
you
we're
can be
good.
noisy.
It was a disability that progressed. So she was more able-bodied at the time of being an employer, but she was like fantastic. Her business was the one that people with disabling conditions or neurodivergence would go to for their first job. And she was even saying to us, like, I wish I'd had more of an understanding. Like, she had Indigenous employees and she didn't understand, like, what do you mean you need a month off for hunting kind of thing? And she had expressed regret that she didn't take the time to like learn at the time. And now she's like, absolutely, I understand the weight that holds and why that is so important and what that would do for an employee of mine. So it's just that like hindsight of if you had taken the time to hear the other person and like just understand what something means for them, I think that goes such a huge way of like a long way of just communicating and getting on the other person's level and hearing them out, I think is huge. Anyway, I'm rambling and saying
No, I couldn't agree more though.
huge.
Like it's so interesting because I was just preparing Fraser Health. Probably shouldn't say my employer on this, but whatever.
You have the power to cut it out.
Yeah. Jim will take care of that.
Thank you,
We'll
Jim.
probably leave it in. But I was just taking a look at student engagement and what that was looking like, and essentially the answer to any employment barrier is find a way to get them working in whatever they want to do or whatever the goal is at that moment in time, right? And however you can find a way to do that, whether it's a co-op or whatever. And usually, like, I don't know the number off the bat, but if you come to a workplace as an apprentice, as a student, entry level, you join in and you're invested in, you're way more likely to stay there, right?
Yeah.
So it's just about like getting that opportunity. And yet it's a skill set, like interviewing is a skill set.
Oh, yeah.
And not a be all end all.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a big misunderstanding. Like I always use this framework of like, some people are rock stars and some people are superstars, like rock star people like just love to own their zone, really love to make sure that everything is like just in accordance to how they want to deliver, right? And there's like superstars, it's just a different level of ambition.
Yeah.
Not that they don't own their zone, but like they just go a little bit faster or are ambitious or trying to take a project to the next level. You need both to make a good balance of a team, right? And just giving people that space seems like the answer, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I think that's very, like it gives people a lot of grace, right? Because it's like, you can't just expect somebody to come in and be like this perfect, awesome, I'm sorry, Jim. This perfect, awesome human being of like, I'm ready to go, thumbs up,
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, we've all got space to learn. We've all got space to grow. Like you got to just figure it out. I don't know.
I think a lot of people would say like, how are we able to do that? Like in the rural lens, what a lot of people, because how we would finish our interview is our favorite part. Like, what is your wish list item? If you could have anything in place to make the experience of obtaining or maintaining employment easier, or offering your services easier, what would you wish for? And a lot, like one of the things I was hearing from service providers is more varied, a more varied economy, more light load positions. Because what we were working with is like Princeton is incredibly resource based. Like they have the mine, which is their biggest employer. It's like mining, forestry, things like that. And the mine has shut the door on hiring people with disabilities because it's a safety liability. So like they don't really have a lot of retail or like diverse positions for people. So like, yeah, they want to be able to like put everybody in a position that's their passion. They want to invest in things like self-employment programs and things like that, because that's hugely valuable for people with disabilities in particular. But they just like,
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, I think it's like people often forget that like in a rural community, like you don't really have a lot. And like if you can't get out of the community, like it's not like you can just like hit up the next town over and go get a job there that you enjoy. It's like you get what you get kind of thing. Like, I don't know, even growing up in Agassiz, like I was so fortunate to have transportation because like all of my jobs have been outside of town. So it's like, what would I do if not?
Yeah, transportation is a huge factor, and that's also something I want to talk about at some point.
We can go there. Let's go there.
Right, let's dig in.
But one thing I am curious about before we go there is how much impact does the economy have on that?
Oh, hugely.
Recruitment and like getting recruited.
Hugely, I think.
And my follow-up question to that, sorry, last question,
do you think?
is also like, never mind. I forgot it. Keep going.
That's so, oh, I'm sorry. That's so mean.
Never
You
mind.
can hit the mic. You can hit the mic. That's so mean. That's whatever.
That's so mean.
It's our third episode back. We're good.
Whatever.
Yeah. This is our show.
Exactly. You run the
you
show.
own the place. Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, economy is huge, and it's one of those things that people wouldn't really think about because it's really specific to rural living. Like when you're in a community that is so isolated and your community can do mining, logging, and like people need to eat. So there's like one grocery store, like 2 restaurants. Like those are your options. And if you don't have the ability to get yourself to another place, those are your options. And so like it's really hard to be able to be like, follow your dreams.
Shoot for the moon.
Yeah, but you have to move.
Yeah.
Follow your dreams, but you can't do it here.
You have to leave your family
Bye.
and your community and start from nothing somewhere else if you want to.
Which is a problem too, because then like it's already so expensive. Like there's not enough housing in these places too. So like you can't get a place to live, but then you don't make enough in that community to even move to the next community because you're like out of the price range of those places. So you're just kind of stuck. Like
I didn't even think about that.
Right? Like it's a problem. Because like a lot of these positions here too, if you're not in the resources, you're doing minimum wage, if that. Like don't want to go there, but some places aren't very legal focused.
Under the table stuff.
Exactly. So then it's like I don't know, it's disheartening, I guess, for people when they're just trying and trying and trying and keep getting like pushed further and further out. Because it's like, what are they supposed to do? Like,
because I am such like a do what you're called to do person. Like find your thing, and like anything should be allowed to be a job. But when you're working in those conditions, it's like, what does a person actually do?
Yeah.
You have to find your joy outside of work a lot of the time. But when your physical body means that you're going to struggle to find a job that sucks anyway, like where do you kind of find that?
Yeah, or like if you're in a place and there's not even like activities to do, right? Yeah. Like it's just kind of like all right, we're back to the let's just sit around or let's go for a walk and see the same twigs and walk past the same cows, say hello.
What impact does transportation have on it?
Right.
Large.
For reference, I'm actually studying this for us right now and trying to take a look at it. So I'm very curious to learn.
Transportation is massive, like seriously massive.
It's one of our most notable for one reason. Like we have our 20 success factors and they are in order, but transportation is number 19. And the only reason that it is so low down on the list is that it was the only factor that was not mentioned at all by one whole section of people that we spoke to. So not a single employer mentioned transportation.
Even me?
In any
Correct.
No. Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, and like, it's not like you don't have the intentions to, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, I think when they're presented with the grand scheme of things of like, what's important to you, other things come up. But then when they're putting on like job applications, like you need to have reliable transportation, you need to have your valid class 5. It's like, it kind of self-selects out people that like would otherwise be fine for the job. And like, even for one girl who, she lives up in Stalis, which is like I don't know, like 30, 40 minutes outside of Agassiz. It's like very quite rural. Like you're going up to like Hemlock basically. And she was going to the college on Seabird. The only reason she was able to do that was because they provided transportation for her. Otherwise, it's like she wouldn't be able to get schooling done. Like she'd be stuck on social assistance. Like, and like she was quite young. So it's like, I don't know.
And so for like us as researchers looking at that, like we can't make too many like, this is what this means. We have to kind of be a little bit objective with things. But when you're looking at those factors, and those are things that are mentioned over and over and over, every other person that we spoke to, like service providers and individuals, were talking about how huge transportation is and how much of a barrier and an impact it's had to have access to it. And to not have a single employer, like it's not on their radar, is just really like, it's striking looking at it. Like, what does that mean, really?
The outlook seems quite desolate.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like,
Because if I understand correctly, like, okay, driving is only one method of transportation, right?
right.
Maybe you can't drive. Maybe like there's so many different
Yeah.
options to get to and from work. But you grow up, you can't find a job anyway.
Yeah.
So you can't save for a method of transportation.
Exactly.
So then you can't leave to go get a job to get method of transportation. So you're just stuck.
Yeah.
You're just stuck exactly where you are.
Pretty harsh. Because like there's a couple stories that kind of even stem from that of like one person on our team has just latched to.
I'm gonna tell them.
Yeah, do you want to? Okay, I'll tell a different one. But we had service providers saying that like it's so expensive just to get somebody who can like teach driving stuff into the community. And then like even then you have to have like basically a mint condition vehicle to do it, which is like pretty hard ask when you're already struggling. Or like if you're in a small town, you're going to have to like wait for these parts to come in, then it's more expensive. Even just like finding a vehicle is enough of a task.
Going to get your license.
Exactly, right? So like there's all these things that's like
crap,
block after block after block. And like even just the public transportation, like I'll let you share the story of that. Because one community had like ridiculous public transportation.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm born ready.
But yeah, my thing too is like, especially for the Indigenous communities, like they are left out of so much public transit. Like along the number 7 highway, like I know this is out of our scope of where we were looking at, but like from say like Harrison Mills out to like Mission or beyond, it is all Indigenous reserves, not a single bus line in there. And they are so separated from everything. So like, what are you going to do? Like start hitchhiking? Nice. Walk down the highway that's like very dangerous? Nice. You know, like, I don't know. It's, again, it gets me fired up, but
dang.
Yeah. And again, Seabird just got the bus there.
Yeah.
Like,
and Seabird has a college.
Well, yeah, and like,
yeah,
and like Seabird is relatively close to Agassiz. Like, I know it's not a safe walk, but people do it. But like, it's not like other communities where it's like even more secluded from the main town, and like you don't really have a choice.
Dang.
Is it time?
It is time. Okay. Do it.
So, Ashcroft, right? They have one bus. The bus is to get you out of Ashcroft. It's not for travel within Ashcroft. It's like,
even though all the houses are on a big hill.
Right. So all of the residences are like, it's a massive
Ashcroft
hill.
is the town that's just past Agassiz. Right?
No.
So
it's our farthest one, actually. It's 2 hours away.
We didn't even know it existed before we started. Basically, you have to want to go there to end up there.
Yeah. Jimbo, Q on a map where Ashcroft is right now.
So the problem with Ashcroft is that it used to be like a hub because they had a train station and they had a speedway. And so it was like the only thing people went there for was to like watch the speedway before like the Mission one opened and the one in Victoria. So everybody was going there for that, and the train would come through. But now the train thing, I can't remember what happened with that, but it's like not really a thing. It like moved somewhere else, and then the speedway's closed. So now it's like you have to physically want to go there. And I don't really see why you would want to go there, if I'm being fully honest. You
it's
could maybe cut that
cute.
out. It's cute.
It's cute.
There's a Hare Krishna community not too far out.
There's a
A
lot
Hare
of...
Krishna community?
Yeah, we the guy who
Did you interview those people?
well, okay, so
He didn't sign a consent form.
right, so we couldn't use it, but I'll let you tell the story in a second. Sorry.
It's okay. It's good.
We went to go to the museum just to like something fun, you know, because like she loves history.
Yeah.
And they had like a stair lift, and so I like poked my head and I was like, hey, like, can we get the stair lift going? And this guy comes out and he's like, oh yeah, so actually we put that in ourselves because we couldn't get like the stuff to do it, like the company to come out and do it and like afford it. So they just did it, but then it broke down. And so now the company won't come to fix it because it wasn't
not
regular.
official.
Like, yeah, it wasn't officially put in.
Oh.
So then
I've had that with wheelchairs too. Like, if it's not done the proper way, they're like, you're on your own.
Like, by
for
the company.
Any maintenance.
exactly. So anywho, that's another roadblock. But the very nice Hare Krishna man came out and gave us like a little debrief and was like telling us about how him and his wife like lived in their little community and like
Fascinating.
he had his little ponytail and his little
What a guy.
Shout out to that guy.
Shout
Right?
out that guy.
love him. Anyway, back
That
to the
reminds me of Métis. Anyway,
Mate,
You can maybe cut this out because this part's kind of
yeah, don't maybe
it's a little sussy, but dude was saying that they don't have a problem with Indigenous relations in that area because the French people moved in and they married the Indigenous women. Of course, there's no problems there.
oh
And it's
shit.
like, have you ever heard of Métis? Never heard of
Like,
her.
do you know the history of how that happened, sir?
That's wild.
Yeah, so I was just like, guys, like, go.
Métis people are from the prairies.
Well, yeah,
Just so we're clear.
yes,
Sorta.
yeah, but like
But
the
he's
idea
like-
of it.
But what he was saying was that, no, French people came here and married in. We're good.
Yeah, like
Fine.
We're
everything's
attached.
solid.
That's what he was saying.
Everything's solid.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, we're good as gold. There's no problems here. We also did have a service. I'm sorry to keep derailing.
okay, it's
We had a service provider say that Indigenous people don't come in for help because they have issues from being Indigenous. It's just because they need help.
They just need help like anybody else.
Wait, whoa. Hold on. That one confused me. Indigenous people don't come in for help.
Because they're Indigenous, they just need help.
Like, their issues
Oh.
have nothing to do with being Indigenous. The fact that they're struggling has nothing to do with the fact
Yeah,
that they're
she's like,
Indigenous.
they just need help.
They just need help like everybody else.
Okay.
And I was like,
So
okay,
that's a whole other thing. Like, oh my gosh. Okay.
okay, let's just
I feel
get
like
the
I need
bus
a
story.
notepad.
Yeah, let's just get the bus.
Let's go bus.
in.
Let's
Yeah,
go
okay.
bus. Everyone, we're getting on the bus.
So-
They
yeah,
have
get on.
one bus to get the hell out of Ashcroft. All of the residences are up a giant hill, and oh my god, there's so many Ashcroft stories. But that day that we were there, it was failed focus group day, the day of the pivot. The bus was out of order, and we got the story later. And we're like, okay, so there's no bus today. Maybe that has something to do with the fact that nobody's like coming, nobody's able to make it. There's one bus driver for the one bus, and he put his motorbike key in the bus and broke it off inside of the bus key ignition. And so there's no bus.
Sorry, guys. And there was not a spare key for the
There's no
bus.
spare key. There's one key to the one bus.
Yeah.
And the one driver also has a motorbike, and he
Put that key
And he put
in
his
there.
bus key in the motorbike.
the motorbike key in the bus.
Yeah, so the bus, done.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how long was the bus out for? Do
Who
we know?
knows?
The whole
For sure
time we
that
were
day.
there.
Yeah.
Who's to say? I think it had been a couple days by the time we were there.
Wow. So then all these people are just not going to work if they do take the bus out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So there's that. Also, we were speaking with so we had kind of a struggle with, was a question of why are we doing people with disabling conditions as well as Indigenous people? Because there are so many things to cover on each side. There was enough content to do this project twice.
Yeah, totally.
But we were two people trying to invest in both. And there was a bit of inequity there. People would talk on and on and on about people with disabilities and the things that they were struggling with, but nobody wanted to talk about Indigenous issues.
Except for me.
Well,
Exactly.
and we were so grateful for that because it was feeling a little bleak at times of like, why
Like
is...
for a long time, you were the Indigenous perspective that we had.
Well, yeah, and like
towards the end, we got a focus group in with an Indigenous community, but like you were the voice for quite some time.
Yeah, and like it was alarming in a sense, and like I felt like we had to keep fighting to be like, no, like something's up, like we have to change something here, because like we can't just carry on and be like, that's good enough, we just had one person.
Yeah.
Well,
and it's like, it's
we
not.
were being told no data is still data. Yes, however, when a whole half of this project doesn't have a voice.
Any data.
Well, and it's like when they've historically not been able to have a voice, like that's not cool.
Yeah.
And again, this is gonna get me fired up, I swear.
Let's get fired up.
I'm sorry. It's time.
We're an hour in. It's time.
Has it already been an hour?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
Time warp time.
Oh, okay.
We got lots of time.
We're
limited
chatty
time.
Cathys.
Yeah, no.
But it's like, if we want to sit here and say that like we're all for reconciliation and all of that, like we can't also sit there and ignore it, ignore that these people are here, and ignore that like we want to talk about it. Like those two things can't coexist.
Right.
And so like when we're like trying to get people involved in the project and they're like gung-ho about talking about people with disabilities, and then I'm like, okay, so what about Indigenous folks? They just kind of brush over it.
They shut down.
Like the immediate shutdown of like, they don't want to touch that topic was crazy to me. Like, I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, it was.
I would have never guessed that. I would have never known that.
Well, and like it speaks volumes, because like a lot of these communities too, like weren't very connected with their Indigenous populations. Like they just weren't.
Yeah, they're like
there's
off to the side.
like distinct difference between the city and the community that's right beside the city.
Yeah, and like they'll gladly be like, oh yeah, we have great relationship. And it's like, okay, so like, do you want to share how? They're like, no.
No, can't go talk about that.
No.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
shit.
so it's like, you don't want to like make it uncomfortable, but at a certain point you have to, because it's like,
here's what's happening. We've heard nothing
Exactly, right?
from the Indigenous perspective.
yeah. And then when they finally did, because like, again, it takes time to build these relationships and like have these communities trust you. And like, we simply did not have the amount of time to dedicate to these communities that we would have liked to, because there are so many Indigenous communities surrounding these areas that it's like, we would have needed like years to actually like make meaningful.
Because we wanted to do it the proper way. Like, we're just coming in as strangers. Like, here's this thing. Here, we did give gifts to the communities, but it was like,
that's the thing, is like they're surveyed to death. So they're like,
well, exactly,
they're like,
right?
fuck you. Like,
No, exactly. It's like why would we do that, right? And it's like, I don't blame you. I don't.
Like, we wanted to attend as many community events as possible and do it like the slow, intentional way. But we had like originally 10 months for the whole thing, start to finish.
Yeah, that's
we got an
time.
extension.
Exactly,
we got an
right?
extension to do dissemination, which is what we're doing now. But like, we had to have our research done in 10 months.
Well, and like I remember too, at one point somebody was like, oh shoot, like I didn't even consider that like the reserves are just like their own little communities. It's like, I could have told you that like well before. Like, I'm sorry, but how disconnected can you be from the realities, right? Like, if you're the one making the project and you don't even know, like maybe you need to get somebody else on board who does know, because like it's not fair. Like, it's really not. I don't know.
So it's kind of like, it kind of just seems like not my concern right now kind of style. Is that how it felt when you were in there? Or was it just kind of like when they were like, no, like nothing to say about that?
Well, because like when we were,
or was it more like, I'm too scared to share about what I actually think it is?
Yeah, like I think it's more the being scared of like saying the wrong thing or being scared of like being perceived wrong, or because again, it's like that whole reconciliation thing. They're like, I want to seem very politically correct here, and they're scared to like say stuff. But like, as soon as we like made connections in one of the Indigenous communities, they were open arms with us and like sharing some of the most like powerful things ever. And I was like,
like what?
tell me. Like, I don't know. We had one, it was like a mother-daughter in the college together. And like, they are just trying their best. They moved out here from Manitoba and like have just been struggling. And they were saying that like out here, they don't get the same supports as like back in Manitoba. Like out here, like the Indigenous supports are not where
different
they need
style
to be.
though. different style.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
Like it is one of those things that's kind of hard to compare, but at the same time, it's like I feel for you. Like you came all the way out here, and
Yeah.
you know, like we're hoping for something better.
That's usually the Manitoba style, is that we come out here to get away from stuff.
Yeah.
And then you just end up missing your family because you have nothing around you anymore.
Exactly,
You know?
right? But like one of the stories the mom shared was that like because she was offered a job and they were like, you're good to go, like come on out, because this was why she moved to BC. And they're like, oh yeah, like awesome, great, we're so excited to have you. And then she didn't hear anything for a while. A couple more months go by, didn't hear anything. Eventually they call and they're like, yeah, so like we heard that you had an incident with the ministry, like one of your kids was in care. You can't have this job anymore, even though it had nothing to do with working with youth. It had nothing to do with anything regarding the ministry. It was completely
like 30
irrelevant.
years ago.
Well, exactly. And like her kid wasn't even in care anymore. Like this kid is in their 30s.
Yeah.
Like the kid's not in care. And like she's fostered kids. She's like,
Really?
yeah. Yeah.
Holy.
So she's come all the way out here for a job that is now not happening.
Yeah.
And she, wow.
Yeah. And so like that's even just like one story out of the like so many that we've heard from these communities. And it's like it just blows me away of like people don't like they don't want to listen, I guess. They don't want to hear that this is actually what's happening. They're like, nah, everything's fine. We're cool.
Well, and we were speaking with an educator in this community, and she's not Indigenous. But she was saying like, this is going to sound really shitty, but like she feels from what she sees that the government treats Indigenous folks, she said, like bottom of the totem pole. And if they can't provide basic clean water, why would they do any of this extra stuff? Like why would they put in effort for employment? Like they're showing that it doesn't actually matter. So like their actions are showing that none of this matters. So that's just kind of like
That's the thing.
the landscape we're working with.
Well, I talk about this all the time. Like, I think before we even started recording this, like everything that's government issued for and like to improve the lives of Indigenous people or improve Indigenous people's experiences, what ends up happening is that it's just not like it's got to be developed internally too, because the solution has to work for each unique community. Also, like the lands here were very, very different because there's different families.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so then families like no other families from the other side of the valley and blah, blah, blah. Like it gets highly intertwined quickly. But where I was taking that was, actually, I have no idea where I was taking that. That's number 2 today.
It's gone.
Yeah, it's gone. It's gone.
Gone with the wind.
But
That's fine.
what I will say is that, like, what was there any type of differences in terms of learning between people with diverse abilities and then Indigenous people? Like, is there one very stark contrast? Or not so much? And then it's kind of the thing about talking, like it's hard to generalize this issue, like this issue, because it's so unique to an individual that you need to approach it on an individual basis anyway.
Yeah.
That's why like our team has recruiters that specifically works with Indigenous talent, because that's specific.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. When you start painting
It's a
with the
people
broad
business. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's-
people vary a lot. So
Yeah.
yeah. So how do we develop solutions? That's where it becomes, though. It's like, how do we develop solutions that's actually going to address this for the long term? It's also in our best interest too, at the same time, because we do need labor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
for lack of a better term.
what I was, because from my perspective, what I know is being a disabled person. And so I don't want to be the one that's like, don't want to talk about, like, I do want to talk about Indigenous issues. It's just not really what I know personally. So one of the things is like, we were speaking to like the amount of people who were willing to talk about people with like disabling conditions versus the people who were willing to talk about Indigenous issues. Like there were way more people willing to talk about people with disabilities, but there is still so much ignorance. And we were speaking with one person, a community CAO. And when
What's
asked,
a CAO?
oh, what does it stand for?
It's fine.
Something admin officer. She's
Chief
like,
admin officer.
yeah. So she's like,
Community leader.
yeah, like she's like next to the mayor and like doing all the things.
Right.
And
Yeah.
when
I don't want to
asked,
ousting anybody here, but we'll try to keep it small. Keep going.
when asked about people with disabilities, and like what the landscape is, she said, I don't really think we have that here. When Emily and I, as researchers, were out in the community, door to door, we were seeing visibly disabled people on the street. Like,
Yeah, like that doesn't even take into account the invisible disabilities, right?
that, and also all of the residences, as I've mentioned, are up a massive hill. And so for me, if I didn't have a car, there's no way I'm getting down into town by myself. So, like, to have the leader of the community who lives there say, we don't really have that here. And have me and Emily, who were there a combined 4 days.
And you're just like,
Something's not adding
That's
up.
a wheelchair.
yeah. You're like, actually like 2 doors down.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're like grabbing the collar, like, uh-oh.
So it's just such a prevalent problem, like the lack of awareness, and just, it's like, it almost feels like a commitment to ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's that. And then, shoot, where was I going with that?
I'm an employer.
It's gone.
It's all good. We just let them come.
Yeah,
and go.
exactly. We're here, going with the flow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But so me as an employer, right? Like, what are some actionable solutions that I could just do tomorrow or
Right.
start?
It is, okay. So when you're a person in my position looking for a job, you aren't going to waste your time where you think that you aren't welcome. So we had spoken with one person who works with RCMP. And they were like, people aren't applying, like diverse people aren't applying because they think that there's no space for them here. And so he wanted to have like, kind of like a, what is it called? Open house, where like you come in and you see that like there's admin positions and things like that. So, and this is true for like attending events as well. If I see on the event poster or like, so a job posting, if you say that you are committed to inclusion and you've thought about accessibility in any way, that's huge points. Like massive. If you're open
Including that we think about it.
if
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
open to the idea of inclusion and you tell me that,
2 thumbs up.
2 thumbs up. Like I'll come for an interview. And
That's
then like, if you're making mistakes, that's cool. Absolutely. Everybody's going to be making mistakes. My family makes mistakes. They've known me for 25 years. But if you're telling me that you've thought about it,
Like you're gonna goon some shit up,
Oh, like,
and that's expected, and
That's
that's
life.
fine.
and nobody would hold you accountable to that as hard as they could. Well, they would, but politely, I guess.
well,
on
like
average?
if it's intentional, different story.
Yeah.
But like if you're just genuinely like
Like
making a little goof,
I'm
like
probably going to tell you that what you've done is
Yeah.
like, I could tell you a better way, but I'm not going to say, oh, you're a bad person because you've made a mistake.
Right.
But if you're telling me that you've considered people like me in any way, huge. I remember what I was going to say earlier.
That's interesting though, because even when we're working with candidates, like sometimes like it's just right person, wrong time kind of thing, and just no open jobs or something like that. They don't care. They'll stay right there the
Yeah.
whole time following our organization until they have an opportunity to go for it.
yeah,
Just because I called them and they were like, I was like, how's it going?
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
absolutely. So like personal connection is huge. And because when you're dealing with like a sea of ignorance, it's like if you're telling me that you've thought about it, that's huge.
Yeah, like just
I'm-
making the effort even
I'm
in
a
the slightest.
fan. So what I was going to say is that we were first week of November, we were in Victoria presenting a panel at the Aspect conference.
It's pretty fancy.
That
Was
was
it?
like,
Yeah, oh yeah.
that was one of those times where we were like, oh, we are now like in a position of influence and we have something to say to people who are in positions to make decisions.
Yeah, like again, though we were like, we're just little guys.
We're just little guys.
Yeah.
But here we are in front of a room of
Every time you say little guy, just think of chill guy meme. You know? That's all I think of.
Yeah,
It's
oh
just
my
like
God.
you two in like
Yeah.
like a big conference hall.
No, like
Exactly.
essentially that's what it was.
We were in front of over 100 people.
And they were clapping after we spoke. I was like, all right.
Did you
I'm not-
give a mic drop?
Yeah, exactly. I was like-
I'm not just here to gas us up, but
My tank is full. Please stop.
we were there and like, I'm just going to talk about it because it was crazy.
Talk about it.
They had a keynote speaker first day. I don't know if you've done a conference like that or like a convention. It's so
It was a sea
I've been to
of,
them. I'm not good at them.
it was
corporate.
a sea of beige.
Yeah.
And then we've got us wearing like bright colors and
doing our
wacky
thing.
outfits.
Doing
Like,
our thing.
yeah.
And they had a keynote speaker to like kick it off. The theme of their time was diversity and inclusion. And this fella had a whole section of his presentation dedicated to diversity and inclusion. And he says the words, inclusion is the price of doing business these days. So we need to get with it. And I have since spoken to a couple of people who took that in a different way. But for me, that's saying this is a thing that we now have no excuse to not deal with. And so now I guess we have to deal with it. And that to me is like, I wrote it down. There were two things that I wrote down from the keynote.
yeah.
I was like, inclusion is the price of doing business these days. And he also finished with, have a really engaged day.
Yeah, that was just silly.
I was like, oh, because this corporate
As I was like
hellscape.
sleeping with my eyes open. Just sitting there, like,
That is the only time.
it was not good.
I am so good at listening to people. I could not hold it together.
It was so
Have an
bad.
engaged day.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I'm like-
really engaged day.
Goat staring.
What does that mean exactly? How did you take it?
Just like pay attention, I guess is what he's telling. Like
Oh,
really just
have an
use this
engaged day.
opportunity.
Network it out.
Like
Yeah,
that's such
exactly.
a white person. That's like clapping.
I have a great corporate. I'm great at the corporate
Really,
guy.
You're,
Corporate
like all
dude.
buttoned up and
Oh yeah.
So, okay. So he said that, I took it. And going through this, I didn't see a single other. I saw one person with a hearing aid. Besides that, no other visibly disabled people. And if your theme is diversity and inclusion, and that is the price of doing business these days, where are the people that look like me? There was not a place for me to eat my breakfast.
yeah, like it was a struggle and a half.
Emily was my wingman. We had to have like somebody who was at one point on the board, like tell them we have a person in a wheelchair. Like, can we please make a space for them to eat?
It's like it's not like they didn't know you were coming either. Like we filled out forms that were like, do you have accessibility needs, whatever. Like they knew somebody in a wheelchair was coming. Like
Yeah. And so like I make things work. I'm in the business
Pivot.
of pivoting. But to have it be like, you have decided that inclusion is the price of doing business, and here I am, and there's nowhere, I have to eat on my lap. There were a couple of other things that went really weird, but where are the people that look like me? And so what I was going to say is getting people, because it is such an individual basis, like what each person needs, what each community needs is so different. I think getting people, like disabled people, Indigenous people, into the rooms where decisions are being made is huge, because there are so many like huge organizations that are based around the parents of disabled people and people who live very closely with disabled people, but not really disabled people themselves. And it's a really different perspective. Like when you are the person who's firsthand dealing with these things, it's different, and there are different solutions required. So it's including the people in the rooms where decisions are happening, and where are the opportunities for them to get in those places. That was my spiel on the panel, basically. Yeah. But yeah, so it's including the people, and doing what it takes to get them in those rooms, I think.
Yeah, and I mean,
is a start.
Like to make it more like back to our project, like not that it's.
Sorry,
I just mean
Riel had asked a question about.
No, it's
No, I wanted every second of
no,
that.
exactly. Like I'm not saying it's, I'm just
tie it.
I'm trying to like
ribbon.
segue.
Reattach back to project.
Link back. We got it.
Link back.
That's what we're here for. We have 5 recommendations at the end of like our paper thing. One of them is collaboration, like really work together with all people who should be involved, like employers, service providers, the people actually affected, like the underrepresented groups themselves, all of that. Another thing is like make it personal. So like seeing how you can like yourself make a change, even if it feels overwhelming, like try your best.
Sorry.
It's all
Burping
good.
into the mic.
It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. We'll leave that.
Yeah, exactly. It's fine.
Your mic is way louder in Jim's headset right now.
God, I'm
just kidding.
Another one was like looking at like the layered view of people of like how like systems and their environment and things influence the person. Like we had this one article we kept referencing back to of like laziness does not exist. It's like you have to look at somebody on a broader scale. So like say you see an unhoused person having a smoke or like drinking some who knows what. They're not just doing it because they're like degenerates. Like that's not how it blows. Like maybe they're having a cigarette because that's the only thing that takes away their hunger pains, like, you know, or maybe they're having a drink because that's the only thing warming them up right now as they're like outside in the elements, right? So you have to look at people for more than just what you see at face value. And that's like one of the big things. Trying to think of what the other ones are. Get real. That was the get real
number
one.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. One of them is like as well, like carrying the stories and like amplifying the voices. As long as you have permission and are doing it as trauma informed and being a good person about it.
Story-based approach is
the
huge.
stories. And like, I feel like it really honors like Indigenous culture being a more story-based approach of like using their stories and like giving them the voice to like share. I don't know. I think that's really important because that's something that was like huge for us during the project too. But
I have a question. So okay, there's a saying in HR school, which is where I'm from. There's actually not an HR saying, but it's a saying that I take on HR is that there's no such thing as an HR problem, only a leadership problem. And one of the things I've studied a lot in my personal life is that you need to have the right conditions in a team to enable diversity to even bring its benefits in the first place.
Right.
And that starts with leadership. Like saying that, you know, this is the cost of doing business these days. Like that's not leadership. That means that you're in response to something. Whereas if you cared about your team, you'd be like, okay, this person can contribute more to the team. Doesn't matter. Find a way to get them in. Right. So how much does like leadership, management, employers' perspectives, it sounds like to me that the employers have to change perspective first rather than anything else.
Yeah.
Like, there needs to be some type of paradigm shift.
Yeah. And like, again, we can't just be straight up be like, that's the problem.
Yeah.
That's where it is. You know,
Yeah.
like, again, there's all these things
I'm just
going on.
thinking,
And like,
I'm also an employer, so I think that it's probably coming from that
you're the
perspective.
problem.
I'm the problem. Put that in the report.
Yeah, exactly. Riel is the
Yeah,
problem.
first
Is the
one,
problem.
Riel is the problem. Second
get
one,
'em.
get real.
Yeah.
Get
With
real.
Riel.
Exactly.
Get real.
Get real. Get the mobs ready. We're going.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you are right. Like, I think it's quite the like, I'm an employer. I know what's best.
Well,
like,
it's
I don't know.
very individual also. Like there are
Exactly.
standards in place for the most part, but like when you're working in rural communities, it's every man for himself.
You can get away with quite a lot.
You can get away with a lot. There were horrific stories from people who were like, I was asked if I have a developmental disability in my interview, and I answered honestly, and they were like, yeah, we don't have any available spots.
Or like
right then and there.
Yeah, or like we had like one Indigenous person being like, we did like a phone interview. They called me in. As soon as I walked in, you could see they did the up and down look at me and were like, no, you're not going to be a good fit.
So we're working with like blatant discrimination and employers who can really do whatever they want. So that's a huge problem and a barrier. But I think like largely I do want to believe that people want to be good and do their best. And I think it's a really big ignorance problem. It's a lack of awareness. And time and time again, I am reminded that people have not thought about these things. So if you're starting from square one, if we can have a part in like planting a seed and making you think about it, that's the best we can hope for. And like, if like once you have a personal responsibility to do something, to learn, shift your perspective, like actionable steps are really important. But it's just our job is right now making people aware. And I think from there we can move on to like, that's the recommendations is like, now you know about the problem and here are our recommendations for working towards finding a solution to the problem.
Yeah. And again, to give the benefit of the doubt to the employers, like in these small communities, they are really just like flying by the seat of their pants. Like they are day to day, like get her done.
Yeah.
And like they're still reeling a lot from COVID too. Like they are still picking up the pieces. They're still really struggling. And so I think at the end of the day, it's just that like, who can we get in real quick just to start, fill that spot and you know, like continue.
They're in operational survival.
Exactly right. So I think that's where some of that is coming from of like, we haven't even considered it because we're still considering how to even just like pay the bills tomorrow or like, how do we even just like open the doors? Because a lot of times too, we are having issues where like people couldn't come or like we couldn't get into certain places because they had to close the doors early because they didn't have enough staff or what have you. And so then it's like, there's just a lot going on. Every direction, there's a lot going on.
It is a lot.
It's such a complicated problem, I feel like.
Yeah, it was disheartening at times. I'll be so honest.
There were times we were in the car after a long day of outreach and it was just, we are two fellas.
Two little guys.
Staring down the barrel of a really massive problem. And like, what do you do?
Yeah.
So it did get really overwhelming and
I felt like I lost the plot at times. I was like, oh God.
What are we doing here?
What's like how are you taking care of yourselves as you're driving around doing all these interviews?
Little treats.
Little treats.
We got really acquainted with every gas station.
Yeah, like we could recommend the best gas station treats. We've got it, especially the beverage section. The drinks,
if you got a good beverage section.
Solid.
It was little treats. It was in the car karaoke.
Oh yeah, cracking up at things that weren't even funny.
Pals.
do we know the first like joint karaoke song?
I don't know actually.
I would imagine it was probably a Chapel Roan.
Probably.
Really?
It probably was. Yeah.
I'm new to Chapel Roan. I just got the bug like
we
yesterday.
were early.
Night. You know what? She's slay.
She does.
Jim
slay.
needs to do his
Jim
homework.
does need to do some. Jim, you hear that?
You
Got to go dance practice.
Yeah, exactly. Like if we come out after we're done and you don't know the dance, like that's it.
I don't know the dances.
No, that's okay because you only just knew.
I'm new. I'm
exactly.
fresh.
So
Jim doesn't have an excuse because
Jim has time.
Jim slays.
He's already on thin ice.
I don't slay.
No. You're already slay. You passed the slay check.
I don't know. We'll see. Depends. I'm still fresh Chapel Roan.
No,
it's fine.
You'll
Get there.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think it was probably Chapel or like a throwback like Elton John.
I was gonna say or like Queen or
Don't
something.
Stop Me Now.
Something like that.
I'm Still Standing.
No, that maybe was probably it when we were feeling real down and we're like, all right.
I'm still standing.
Yeah, Elton John.
Elton John.
That one's a classic. We'll put it on after.
Okay.
It's a very good one.
I'll go grab the Sonos after.
Yeah, we'll have a party.
Big music guy too. So
nice.
Slay.
Interesting. Slay. Big
Slay.
music guy. Slay.
Nice. Slay. That is slay.
That is slay. Is there anything like what am I missing? Asking about right now. My favorite host question.
Yeah, because it's just.
What do you want to tell me that I haven't talked
Yeah,
about?
exactly. Like, you do the job for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I'm fine. I'll just sit here. No.
Do your job.
That's what you're here for now.
Do the job.
Yeah.
I feel like there was something I was going to say about. I'm gonna let you
Okay.
do something, and then I'll think.
I will just say this is something I've kind of like stewed on, if you will. I've let the flavors get to know each other in my brain.
I don't know why that got me.
God, she'll come out with the one that'll just get
That was
ya.
so quiet and funny for some reason.
Yeah, she's got the
Anyway,
quiet
so you were
hilarity.
stewing.
That's from the trauma, okay? It makes you funny.
The trauma?
It makes you funny.
Okay, so yeah. My trauma makes me stew too.
Let the flavors get to know each other.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're chefing up a think stew.
No, exactly. Like that skillet is ripping hot in there.
High smoke point.
No, exactly. And like if you look a little closely, you can like maybe see steam coming out, and like it smells really nice. It's great.
Aromatic.
Exactly.
Good for your olfactory senses.
No, it's like Michelin star.
You're making your own aromatherapy.
Like a Subway.
Okay, I used to not be able to walk past Subway in Agassiz with my sister because I was like, I can't. Like, I need to go in there now. Like,
Oh, I swear they pump it outside,
no,
right?
and I
They
think
do.
it's got like a hint of crack.
Yeah, cake.
No, crack.
It's legal. Well, yeah, crack, but it legally can't be called bread.
No, I know, because there's too much sugar
it's
in it.
cake.
Really?
Yeah, and like in the UK, because they have such strict like sugar laws and things, they can't use that bread no more.
Travesty. Anyway,
Travesty.
You had a thought.
Anyway, so cake sandwiches. Stewing. Back
a
to stew.
cake sandwich. That's a huge idea, actually. I think we need to
Your
stop.
kitchen segment.
Yeah,
Yeah, we can do a cooking show now.
we should.
I would be
Unemployment era.
Unemployment.
All right.
You know what? Come back for an unemployment era podcast
Please.
and give an update.
And we're gonna be so
And we'll
disheveled.
cook.
We'll
Yeah.
be so disheveled and like
Yeah, it should be like, yeah, you had to pay for the Uber to get here.
fill up my gas tank, please.
yeah.
And I'll just be like goat staring the whole time. Anyhow, we're about to get like these flavors were a little deep.
I'm ready.
Okay, let's
So,
go
like,
deep.
So like I try to diffuse with comedy. If
Am
you
I gonna
haven't noticed.
cry?
No.
I might.
Will I cry?
Yeah.
I don't know you well enough yet. Probably not.
I can cry.
That's good. That's healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes. I concur. Okay, so there's a couple of things I've been staying on. Like, one thing is that like over the course of this project, I've almost felt like guilty at times because like I'm technically the Indigenous hire, and like I'm very white passing. I'm very like not in tune with the culture. Like growing up in Agassiz, like you do get very immersed in the culture, like going to school there and stuff. And like my one nephew grew up on Seabird, so like I also partially grew up out there of just like knowing that. But like it's not the same as like having someone who is like connected with their culture, like very much that like Indigenous voice on the team. And so like there's times where I'm just like, why am I here when somebody else could have been? And like I feel like I'm taking the spot from somebody who could have like, I don't know, done it more, if that makes sense, or like been more of that like Indigenous person. And like I don't know, it just feels bad at times, and like I know it shouldn't, because like I'm really just trying my best. I'm just a little guy. And so it's like, I don't know, like I feel so grateful to be here and like get to share the stories from these folks, but at the same time it's like going through the project, it's like I just feel bad that like these voices are maybe not being heard as much as they could because I'm not that person, or like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Do you want to get ceremonial on this? Like, how do you want me to respond?
That's up to you.
Do you want me to go full indig on it, or do you want me to go?
That's up to you.
Really?
Yeah.
you feel.
Like I'm
Okay, we'll go full indig on it.
love it.
Okay, so according to natural law, like I totally understand where you're coming from. Think about it this way: like I'm as white passing as it gets. My mom is English.
I don't know. You got some brown to you.
Got a little
Yeah.
bit of I don't know, some undertones. I
Yeah,
guess.
exactly. Like, yeah.
My eyes are blue,
Hey, so am I.
right? They don't work that well. They're mutations.
Same.
Guys
Well,
are just relating it up.
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. So yeah, adjust our glasses.
Four Eyes crew.
But what essentially like what I want you to know is that there's more experiences like yours than there are the other way, right? Because like throughout history and what happened, like the disconnection was done on purpose.
Yeah.
You're the product of the disconnection that was done on purpose.
Right.
Getting really ceremonial on it, like we're in a ceremonial room right now. Like, is there any chance that creator, put the conditions on your life for you to be this person right now because we need you to be that person.
Right.
Right? Yeah. Like that's like I love Our Storytellers. Like it's bigger than me though. Like if you two wanted to have your own podcast on here, it wouldn't be up to me.
Right.
But like I'm just the person that had the conditions that was set upon me and the skill set to deliver this.
Right.
So I'll leave it at that because I hate it when people tell me stuff.
No, I appreciate it. Like it puts it in that other lens of like, because you can see it from a different perspective, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, I'm a big believer of like things happen for a reason. Like that's just how she blows. Like the earth will do what it needs to do. It's just like, how do you like grapple with those feelings of like, I don't know. It's like that imposter syndrome thing of like.
You have humility is essentially what you're trying to say, which is a huge.
I'm so humble, guys.
No, for real. Let's joke it out. But yeah. Okay.
Diffusion.
And somebody hit us with a distraction right now.
No, that's me.
But no, for real. Like you have humility and that's why you feel like that. But like if it wasn't you, then who? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like also like showing up to a community, like showing up there, you don't know anybody, you have to make that connection. Like I would send both of you 10 out of 10 times every single time.
Hell yeah.
Right? Because like, well, you can connect on a personal level, right?
Yeah. Well, and like that ties into my other stewing thoughts of like, it's such a heavy thing for us to be in and like feeling that responsibility of like this huge thing is like now on our backs of like, we kind of like lifted the covers on something way too big.
Yeah.
Can of worms.
Exactly. And so
Can
like,
open worms everywhere.
like we were saying before, it's like, had it not been.
Well, because I was going to say like, sorry. You were the one I needed to do my part. And like, you're carrying a torch. Like, you did your little section. We've done our thing. Like, anybody else, I would have face down in the Thompson. This is what I'm saying.
Face down in
like,
the Thompson. Or the Fraser.
Or the who's to say? Not me, not you, not God.
That's like our thing. No, we're not religious.
Not me, not you, not God.
And we're not religious.
Nobody's to say.
Nobody. Not me, not you, not God.
Exactly. Nobody's to say. It's no answer.
And so like you've told me, I sound like such an asshole, but you've told me that I'm a pretty cool guy, right? Like
word.
You're the one who like gives me the pep talk that like I know what I'm doing and we deserve to be here. And so if that's true and I'm a pretty cool guy, like I'm nothing without you. And this is another thing that we say. Emily lifts with her heart.
Oh yeah, that was really funny in our podcast. Because I was
lifts with her heart.
Well, because we were talking about how we had to make a palette for the viewers.
Where's this other podcast? Can I link it?
Yeah,
here?
it'll be out January 8th. So.
Out January 8th? Okay, I'll make sure.
And it'll be on all
your choice.
Whatever the scripted phrases of.
Wherever you get your podcast fix.
Yeah. Anyhow. We were joking around because we went to a motel that had quite the lip to get into the room.
Yeah, we were told it was accessible.
We went a couple times prior to.
We did. We tested it out.
We were like,
and they were like, yeah, we have a ramp. And I got eyes on the ramp. And I was like, cool, great. The ramp's bolted to
the kitchen
for dolly use.
Because like, we don't need that. Anywho.
So it's like a 2-foot.
Yeah.
Gap. And I was like, that's fine. I'll just get out of my chair every time. It'll be great. And Emily was like, no, I saw pallets back there. I have an idea.
Yeah, I was like, I'm cooking here. Okay. Like
stewing.
Exactly. I'm stewing.
Simmer.
Well, we went to boil on that one.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Full MacGyver. Okay.
Just like inventing.
I'm out there lifting it up.
She carried pallets far. Like, and so we were saying, like, I said, she lifted with your legs. And she goes, no. I lifted with my heart. It was just funny. But anyway, explaining the joke. But so it's my favorite thing, explaining jokes. But truly, like we were the ones that needed to be there, I think. And there's always been this, like, we needed more time. We wish that we'd had a little bit more resources. That would have been fantastic. But I think that we gave it our all.
Word.
We saw some things and trauma bonded.
Word. made me funnier.
Yeah, but you were who I needed. And so if that's the best that anybody can say, then that's pretty good. And there's more to say. Like,
yeah, I think moral of the story is that like I'm very, very grateful that I was able to like have someone where I could just like be silly, be myself, you know, like not just be like, okay, I'm on the clock, I'm here, you know, and then like as soon as I leave, I'm like, oh God, what have I done?
Yeah.
You know, like I could just kind of like be there. And I think that did really help the project because like without this guy right here, you know,
This guy.
you know, yeah, I don't know.
So basically, imposter syndrome is fake.
Basically, that's old news. Okay, that's so 2020. I guess we're still in 2024. 2025, we're throwing away imposter syndrome. Okay, spread the word.
Would you go to ceremony? Both of you?
Yeah,
Yeah. So you're curious about ceremony though,
yeah,
and culture.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. What's the closest you ever came to you? I'm just thinking.
Yes.
I'm just calculating. But okay, well that's fine. We'll hook you up.
All right.
For sure. It's always a little bit the purpose of the whole podcast is to get people to come back to ceremony in the first place anyway, which is why it starts
Yeah.
with ceremony. But yeah, no, we'll get you set up, and it's always a little bit intimidating to go at first, and then you get there and then realize that nobody gave a what about you anyway, and then it doesn't matter. You know?
Yeah, and I think that goes with a lot of things too. It's like you're like, oh, I can't.
Yeah, exactly. And you're in the middle of Ashcroft and everyone's like,
Yeah, exactly. I'm just standing there like,
yeah.
Like, truly.
But the next thing you know, we're doing sick tricks at the skate park. So
Sick tricks, dude. Truly, like, it was all stuff that I never thought that I could do. Like, that's crazy. Like, we're here conferencing after interviewing people.
that was pretty
And, like,
crazy.
And like people trusting us, and we had what's it called, like a structure we were working with. Like, we learned our structure, we did our learning, and it's like we're like real professionals.
I thought you were going to say real people. And what sums that
Real
up the
people,
best
for sure.
was in Victoria. So our hotel was like, I don't know if you know Victoria very well, but there's this like main bridge thing that like connects kind of where some of the hotels are to like the hub of the town. And so we were on like the one side of the bridge, and we were going to go to
like by Parliament-y style, or not really?
It's
like on the other side of the water there, because there's like that harbor bit, and then Victoria's a funny little town.
Gotcha. Funny little capital.
Exactly, right? It was built for the old times.
Yeah.
Makes no sense. Driving around there is a nightmare.
It's my favorite place.
It is great. I spend a lot of time there. But after the conference, we were like, we gotta celebrate. So we were gonna go to Friends of Dorothy, which is like a drag bar thing.
Fantastic.
Excellent. Very
So
great. I
fun.
highly recommend.
Would recommend. Okay.
Everybody's so lovely.
Okay, I'll go.
I think you should.
I'll
I
go.
really think you should.
I'll go.
Yeah.
We'll bring Jim and I'll go next time we go.
That would
we
give Jim
recorded
the
our
sleigh test.
first. That would give him a sleigh.
Yeah.
Pass sleigh test.
Yeah.
We recorded our first podcast on the island,
Okay.
so we can
Oh.
travel this thing around. So we'll just go there, hit up.
We can be your tour guide.
Oh yeah.
But
oh
yeah.
Okay, keep going.
So
Sorry.
we're like, no,
Keep
we're
going.
just
We're hanging
I
out
think
now.
it's
Yeah.
good. I think it's like the natural way
Yeah.
that it should go. Anyways, we're like, I'm wearing like a Garfield outfit because like, I should say I got a tattoo from our journeys. We were at Kakuli Cafe, which is like an Indigenous cafe.
Okay.
It's very cool. If you've never been there, highly recommend.
Best beverages.
They got Bannock. They've got like Indian tacos. They've got
This is in
Lab-
Victoria.
Yeah.
no, this is in Merritt.
Kukui
Merritt.
Cafe.
There's
Yeah.
one in Kamloops.
a chain.
There's like 4 of them, I think.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to expand, which is very cool to see too, because it's like,
We'll open one.
yeah, that's what we were saying. We got a franchise one. Anyway,
Unemployment areas are lasting for long out here.
right? And we were.
We have ideas. We need funds.
If we get desperate, there's a cult we can join as well.
It's true. That's also an option.
That's if we get desperate, though.
But Garfield.
Oh yeah, so they have like a guest book there, and we were like just looking through it, waiting for our order, and then I found somebody drew like a really like squiggled up Garfield, and I love Garfield, and so I was like, what a great way to memorialize the whole like vibe of it. Anywho,
I will just say I also recently got a tattoo that found meaning at the end. It's a little Tiffany lamp, but and it was just Flash, that I liked. And Emily was like, it's because we were in like motels with little lamps.
It's your road tattoo.
It's my roadside tattoo. Anyway.
And you have a Garfield?
Yeah, so like up
It's
here.
just a little Garfield.
He's like really like goofy looking.
Oh, I love him.
Yeah, he's great.
So then Garfield is your road tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I
And
still
you were dressed as Garfield?
not as him. I have like a little
It's
like
like a
dress,
dress.
that's
It's like a purple dress
with
with
Garfield
Garfield
faces on it,
faces.
and I was like, great.
Slaying it up.
Platform sandals on. I was real tall.
Mm-hmm.
You were like all dressed up. You had like your glitter on. We were great.
Yeah.
However, to get over this bridge to get there, she needed some help, and so I'm like behind the chair, like running full blast, and
in
then
the platforms.
and we're like booking it. We're passing people.
we
I'm
were
like
late for our reservation.
Yeah, I was like swerving you around after we were in our corporate little get-ups.
Yeah.
And then this woman stops us as we're running. She's like, your guys' speech was so great. I was like, oh no, she
Great
recognizes
job on your
us.
speeches, girls.
Yeah, and I
we
was
were
like,
like, oh my God, we're famous.
as I like, I don't know. I was just like, oh.
Like that morning, it was 8:30 a.m. What time?
Oh yeah, it was like crack
8:30
of
a.m.
dawn.
Crack of
ass.
We started our presentation. We had 60 minutes and it started at 8:30. I did not sleep. Emily is the reason I was alive that morning.
Well, because she was like, I should just stay up all night and then I'll be
That
fine.
would be easier, I feel. But no, Emily made me go to bed. But
And you're like, nah.
I think that's probably a bad idea.
And he's like,
Yeah, no, that's pretty much what it was. Like conked right out.
But like it was an early morning and we had never done anything like this, but we did it. It was hard. And we were like, people were coming up to us after and chatting with us about like how impactful it was and everything. And so we were like, oh my God, like we've done something.
Oh yeah, and there was like apparently ministry people there who have like shared our stuff with ministry. Not that like government is government, it is what it is. Like,
oh, don't get me going on the ministry.
exactly right. But
they've heard us
and like they cared enough at least to like share, right? And so like that's all we could really hope for and more. But
so that was like the first like, oh my God, we've done something. And then in our ridiculous drag lounge outfits, somebody stops us and is like, great speeches today, girls.
I was like, people can see me right now as I'm like whizzing by.
They
I'm
know
like,
that it's me.
we're just a blur, and they're like, that's them. That's the little guys.
That's the little guys.
Yeah.
So that was incredible.
Yeah.
Cool.
Anyway.
Is there anything else? Do you want to dedicate this podcast to anybody?
Our participants.
Yeah, not to be so cliche, but like...
No, shout out to them.
Yeah, like
every
seriously.
single person that we interviewed and chatted with is just fantastic. And they live in our minds. And not in like a creepy way. But...
Yeah, I've got like a little shrine actually with all of them.
We think about them and we're like, I wonder how so-and-so's doing. Or like,
Really, just like just clicking in, just hitting your neurons.
I had to let the simulation generate my mind of like you like looking at a picture of a participant.
Yeah.
Yeah. The candles lit.
Yeah, exactly.
No, of course.
Being
I got like a lock of their hair.
like dang.
I took their cup from that they were drinking from, you know.
Super above board. It's fine.
Gotcha.
It's really just little.
It's research. It's research.
Hello, like
this is boots on the ground research.
Yeah.
That's another one we say all the time.
Boots on the ground research.
We were boots on the ground research.
I like that though.
That was us, because everybody else was kind of just like.
Do you ever feel like a survey is just done? Like never survey another person again.
I
just
hate
go
surveys.
and walk and talk to people and figure it out.
I hate surveys.
Down with surveys.
Down with surveys.
But we were on the ferry home.
Oh yeah.
From the conference, and this fellow from BC Ferries is touring around, and he's like, "I have a survey."
And so we were like,
Would you be able to do it?
Out of pity, almost. We're like, we know the position you are in right now,
we'll
so
do
we
your
got
survey.
And you're
sir.
like, yes, sir.
Yeah.
I'll do your survey.
Yes, sir.
You're like,
I'll
yes,
do my duty.
Ask me the questions.
I
Like,
have
how would
grown-
you rate your satisfaction on today's sailing overall?
Just hit 5 for all.
I get it now. Like I didn't get it before, but
Yeah.
Now we
brutal.
get it.
I know
It's
the
brutal.
struggle. It's like the numbers just haunt me. We were like, originally we needed 300
Respondents.
and then respondents, and then they were like 150 is probably fine given the circumstances, and then We were like 118.
That was the total N.
Yeah,
And N equals
for the
118 for the survey part.
Well, like eventually we had to start because like we had the incentive of like if you do it, you can get entered to win a tablet. But then we would go places and be like, if you do it today, don't tell them. Well, tell everybody actually.
For
If
the
you
next
do it,
5 minutes, 99% off.
you will get entered to win a gift card too right here, right now. Okay, do it.
Incentives.
Yeah, exactly. Rocks their world.
They love
That
it.
got us a lot. But
Little treats, you know, they help us. They help our
it's
participants.
the moral of the story: little treats.
To take care of your wellness and to get a survey done, it all comes from the same answer.
Little treats.
Little treats from little guys.
You get it.
And that's a wrap.
And that's it.
Honestly,
Well, thank you so much for coming on here. I
Yeah.
mean, like, I feel like we could probably talk forever.
oh yeah.
And you're more than welcome to come back as individuals or whatever when this comes through and
Nice.
bada bing, bada boom.
Fantastic. This
Any
is
other questions?
Excellent.
How was it? How was your, because you're professional podcasters too. So how was?
Of course.
This is our second. Fantastic. Like, this is so comfortable. We had really cool, like, we were in studio. So it was like
It was like,
padded walls.
yeah.
All the cameras from all angles.
This is what I imagine a studio. Like
That-
padded. This is my
Yeah.
padded wall.
Yeah, no, that's
You
yeah.
are a padded
Yeah.
wall.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like that. Very fantastic lighting, and Tim in his little room. It was great. But
Oh yeah. We kept saying little guys so much too. When we came back for our additional recording day, he saw us, he's like, it's the guys.
we were walking through the little kitchen area, and he's just walking to the door, and he's like, "Hey, it's the little guys." And we're like, "Yeah, it is. We're
Yeah.
famous."
Little guys.
Yeah.
Anyway,
But-
yeah, it's been great. Thank you.
No worries.
You're a true professional.
I
Word.
am I.
Ditto.
I really appreciate you doing the research and being the people that are on the ground actually like taking this in, because it helps people like me, like whether it is with the podcast or whether it is at work or whatever. So I sincerely actually do appreciate it. And thank you so much for including my perspective in the
Yeah.
research as well too. Like I felt so valued, and it honestly felt like for me like such a great, I was like, finally someone's asking. I was like,
Yeah.
this is my answer to the question of what do you want to talk about but you never get the chance
Yeah, like that's
to.
what you've been stewing on, and like
That's what I stew on
Yeah.
all day long.
yeah, like that pot's been at a simmer for like a while.
Oh, so
wow.
much Excel worksheet shit
Oh,
in
God.
this stew you wouldn't even believe. You know, that's like my extra flavor. It's like an Excel worksheet with like a dash of like insert table here. Like,
Oh god.
like,
Yeah.
The horrors.
that's what it feels like. But no, honestly, thank you so much. And yeah, let's chill again.
Nice.
For
Boom.
sure.
Nice.
Hi, my relatives. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the Our Storytellers podcast. Thank you so much to Emily and Madeleine for coming on the podcast and sharing. You know, it was great to learn from you. It was great to have some laughs, and I wish you best of luck in the next stage of your employment journey or wherever the world takes you. And you're welcome to come back on the podcast at any time, of course. If you're listening to this, of course, you can access any of the relevant links to Diversity Disconnect in the description of wherever you're getting this from. The other thing you can do as well is you can subscribe and like to our YouTube channel, or follow our Spotify channel as well too. Anything helps. Comment, let us know what you think, and yeah, we'll leave it at that for today. Keenan Askaman, I'm grateful for all of you, all my relations. Love, Riel.